You've heard it before. I'm stressed out. I've had enough. I'm burned out. Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Jantz. We are going to talk about stress and burnout. There's a lot of it going on. It's like the stress virus is rampant. Talking about it next here on Hope and Possibility.
Dr. Gregory Jantz is a best-selling author of over 45 books and the founder of the Center A Place of Hope, voted a top 10 center for depression treatment in the U.S. As the pioneer of whole person care, Dr. Jantz is known as the messenger of hope. Now the nation's expert on anxiety, depression, substance abuse, relationships, trauma, and PTSD, here is Dr. Gregory Jantz.
I've been thinking about what I've been observing, and you've seen it too. Out and about, and I'm looking out over my windows. You walk down the sidewalk, you drive down the street. People are on edge everywhere. On edge everywhere. And part of what's going on is we've been in a season, let's just say COVID pandemic, of chronic, unrelentless stress. And it's been building, and relationships have been maxed as far as stress, inflation, financial stress, you name it, relational stress, political stress. It's just been super injected into our society. And really, it doesn't matter where you are in this United States. It's rampant everywhere stress. How do you know if you're in trouble? I made a list. Here's how to know if you're in trouble. First of all, you could reach a point of total burnout and total depleted reserves. Your reserves are no more. You know, we all have times of stress and we get up the next day and, you feel a little tired. You feel a little, okay, but I'm going to go about my day. And you do. And maybe you do that repeatedly. But then there's a day you get up and you go, oh, this is worse. And there is that heaviness. There is that oppression. There is that weight upon you that has got you. And you're going, help. And it takes energy just to breathe. You've depleted all your reserves. That's how you know you're at this end of the stress and burnout continuum and you are fried. You'll notice, here's some warning signs before you get there. I wrote down loss of resiliency. You've lost your balance. You probably are a person, and I'm like this, that for the most part, most of the time, you're pretty resilient. Yeah, there's uncomfortable things that happen. Yeah, there's things that are upsetting, but you're resilient. And you navigate through it, and you go, wow. And you kind of bounce back. But when we're stressed out, overburdened, we've lost that bounce back. And with that comes the next one is, and these are kind of some things to look for, is the loss of daily joy. That loss of daily joy, what's that look like? Well, things that you used to go for a walk, ride a bike, have a hobby, do some things. It's like the things you would normally do that brought you both enjoyment and a sense of joy. It's like even those things don't work anymore. You've lost that sense of joy. You may notice next that you're hypervigilant, hypersensitive, easily offended. When we're under a great deal of stress, we may find ourselves so easily offended. Somebody looks at us in a certain way, we take on an offense and go, what is their problem? And you're critically judging everything. And so when we do this and we become very reactive, oh, you see this? You'll see it on the freeway. You'll see it on the streets. People who are so reactive. Yikes. All right. And then next, I know these are not necessarily the fun symptoms, but we need to know where we are and what's going on. You feel that you've lost emotionally. It's just your best personality traits. All right. You kind of liked how you were and your personality and you're pretty happy with yourself. It's like, gee, I feel like I've lost everything that's good. Everything that is good about me is gone. My personality is gone. Next, not having enough energy to really care. Apathy. You become apathetic when you're stressed and burned out. Now, stress and burnout could be coming from multiple sources. Work source, culture, society, political, family, financial. Remember, it can be coming in multiple layers from multiple sources. And you may feel like inside you're a volcano. You are a volcano and you feel like, man, I'm about to go off. You feel that. You feel it building. And you feel, wow. And you might become a little concerned about yourself, but you are at that place of just heaviness. You're at that place of apathy. You're at that place where maybe rage starts to enter in and you are not handling anger well. It is building. And the word rageaholic, because maybe you'll fall into cycles of rage. You can rage against others. You can rage against yourself, but you run into cycles of rage. So, and then spiritually, if that's something that's been important to you, something that has been in your life, now you probably feel like I'm in the worst spiritual desert I've ever been. You may have thoughts like, I'm worthless. I'm so embarrassed about myself. God must not love me, or I wouldn't be going through this. You probably begin to feel unlovable. And if you pray, you may be praying and going, see, God's not around at all. At all. And that's what you're feeling. All right. And the next one. Soon we're going to get to some encouragement. The next one. Guilt and shame. Because you really do begin to feel like with too much stress, too much chronic stress, too much burnout, you start to feel like, wow, there is really something wrong with me. And if you're not careful, you can go into a victim mode where you just are a victim. And you feel like nobody understands. You feel like there is really something inside, must be something wrong with me. So you may also want to escape into different behaviors. These are faulty coping behaviors. You know, alcohol is one of the first ones that gets chosen. The misuse of prescription drugs, other drugs, sexual acting out, overeating, overspending, a really reckless fantasy life, gambling, digital escapism, gaming, where you just look for some escape. Some escape. And this is tough because you want to mood modulate. You want to feel different. You want to have a different sense of, yes, I'm okay. And I just want to feel differently. So that's a big one. And I've talked with people who go, you know what? I feel like somebody should just commit me. I've lost it. During COVID, we had emergency rooms come up with a new term called COVID psychosis. People were so oversaturated, overwhelmed, that they had one foot in reality and one foot disconnected from reality. And it was hard sometimes to tell the two apart. You know, that's where stress, this is the middle of, what are we in, Stress Awareness Month. And this is where stress can take us, a break ultimately with reality. Now, I've not mentioned yet, there are the physical complications of stress. High blood pressure, adrenals pumping a lot of cortisol, the body becomes real toxic, sleep cycles are disrupted or non-existent, and you're waking up during the night and you're cold and sweaty and gasping for air. You may be having sleep apnea. You may have a panic attack while you sleep. You may notice that anxiety goes off the chart. You're just really anxious. Well, one of the things I want us to consider is we don't want to go to that far end of the continuum of chronic stress and burnout where we feel like there is no hope. And maybe we feel like we're close to that. And where we become erratic, paralyzed, we stop taking care of ourselves, we don't care about grooming or hygiene, everything turns off. And the apathy turns into deep depression. Depression turns into a deep despair and despondency. That's where we don't want to go. But that's where it can take us. Now, one of the first things we've got to do is realign some of the basics. Can't always change external stresses, but what I have to do is change how I'm going to deal with them by taking first priority care of myself. Sometimes I need to ask for help. There was a period in my life I had to ask for help. Oh, I'm so glad I did. I had to redesign my life, my schedule, how I cared for myself, my nutrition, my sleep. So look at the basic self-care. Am I drinking my water? Yes. Am I drinking my water? If we get stressed out, we tend to not drink water. We drink 12 cups of coffee, and some people turn to alcohol. The next thing is do a quick analysis of just sleep. Is my sleep super disruptive? Is my sleep at a point where I am absolutely so fatigued that I need to get some help so I can sleep, where my sleep is so disruptive? We don't want to keep, because that's where we start to break from reality, the lack of sleep. The lack of restorative sleep. I used to work in sleep research. It's fascinating about sleep and mental health. We know that you've got to get appropriate amounts of sleep in order to even feel good, physically, but emotionally. You will lack of sleep, anxiety, depression. It's just, it begins to foster all kinds of other issues in one's life. The other piece that I want us to look at is the piece of really, okay, is it a food diary I need to keep? I need to keep track for 30 days of everything going in my mouth. I absolutely need to drink my water. I need to look at my nutrition. I need to force myself to do these things. I need to have a self-care plan. Now, I went through significant stressor, burnout, and significant depression. I had that experience. In fact, I write about it in one of my books called How to De-Stress Your Life. It's an older title, but how to de-stress your life. Well, we've got to have a plan. And part of the plan here, I'm just going over some of the basics that we all know, but sometimes we need to get help in order to do some of the basics. It's a whole lot easier when I'm stressed out just to go through the fast food. Drink all the soda, drink the alcohol. It's just easier choice. Have those 12 cups of coffee a day. I say 12 because I've worked with people who have done 10 to 12 cups of coffee a day. But begin and go, okay, the next 30 days, my focus, I can't change some things that are going on, but I need to do some self-care. I'm going to really work on that the next 30 days. And then when you're totally stressed out, and it does feel like everything's against you and everybody's against you, look at, and I want you to keep a journal for 30 days, but look at any areas of your life of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness of yourself. Am I carrying unforgiveness towards others? Do I have bitterness and resentment that's made my life so toxic? No wonder I'm stressed out. Where do I need to forgive? And this is a big one because sometimes it seems so overwhelming. But forgiveness will rob you. It will create stress, but it will rob you of peace. It will rob you of joy. And resentment takes you down a road you never, ever really want to go. but you maybe don't know how to do the forgiveness. So that's one that we've got to look at. So look at those 3 deadly emotions: anger, fear, and guilt. Anger, another word for anger, hurt. Fear, another word, fear, anxiety, worry. And then there's guilt, another word for guilt, shame. I've got to figure out how to deal with those 3 deadly emotions so that I can begin to be emotionally lighter, emotionally free. And I've got to also, and I would consider being prayerful about where does forgiveness fit into my stress picture. All right, just some things to consider as we look at stress, burnout. We've all had this season. We just can't stay in it that long, or we end up with regret. Remember, hope comes when there's a plan. Let's begin to construct a plan. If you've scored on all these stress symptoms, then we need to look at, okay, where do I need some help? Because if after 30 days, if I'm not making changes, I do need to ask for help in order for there to be hope. And you know what? It's the healthy people that will ask for help because they go, man, I'm humble. I need help. And we'll never, ever regret that. And it's something that we see in our work here at the Center of Place of Hope every day. And I can honestly, because of what I went through, say there is hope.